Hey everybody, thanks for coming back. Hope everything's going well for you. Um, Tonight I just was going to kind of go over some what I call required reading in the Star Wars universe, and I don't mean novels, books, things like that. I mean they're fun. I don't really, gasp read story novels. I have the novelizations of the films of the first three original films. I have read them, but I don't read them. I'm not really a big novel reader or story reader. I read a lot of books on subjects that are informative to me on the subject, even if it's in a science fiction universe and the information is all fiction. If it's something that's presenting it to me in a informative way, even like technical documents or documentary type stuff or anything like that, I eat it up. But just stories, I two chapters, you're lucky if I'm not falling asleep. I don't care. I'm not a I'm not a novel reader that way. I mean, again, I read voraciously, but things that are informing me, even if it's fake and fictional, as long as it's informing me of a subject I am interested in, I'll go with it. So that being said, I'm not really going to tout any novels. I don't read them myself, so I wouldn't expect you to do it. But if you do, and you like reading novels for the escapism, for the storylines of, if that's how you like your imagination, that's totally cool. Nothing wrong with it. It's just not my thing. Now there are a lot of other books or what I'm going to talk about. There are a lot of other books that would be good subjects as well that I don't have, or at least some of them I don't have with me. And I'll suggest a few that I know of that would be amazing books to have on hand. And for me, these are books that further enhance my knowledge of the Star Wars universe and my understanding of it and my enjoyment of it through that way. And if there are any other books in that aspect that you're aware of that I didn't mention, absolutely let me know, because I would love to look into it and see if it's something that would be of interest. So anyway, so I'm not in any particular order, other just because they are smallest to largest. I'm just going to start with a couple of the books that I just brought out here to start with. This one is going way back to when I was a kid. In school, our reading class would have once or twice a year an open book day where you would have a break from your class and go down to the library, and they would have a table out with books that were just free, and they would just give them away. And it was a reading program that was an incentive that I guess was a nationwide incentive, as far as I was aware. That they called Reading is Fundamental, and there was money that was made available to the schools to provide these books for free. And when you're a kid and somebody's giving you free books, back then, and I'm talking late 70s and through the 80s, for me that was a huge deal. I mean, especially if you didn't have a lot of money for extra things, and somebody's giving you a free book of things that you like and you love reading. It was just an amazing time. When that day came around, you couldn't get down to that library fast enough. Of course, there were some books that were made available in those library days that I still today, as an adult, would look back on and think, wow, they actually let kids, from 9 or 10 or 12 or 13 years old have access to some of the subject matter of some of these books. Nothing grotesque, but I do remember there's the comics, the comic books or the comedy books, along with your normal things like the Peanuts and Charlie Brown and whatever. There were joke books that were very inappropriate, even back then, I would think, but they were just, that was the way things were. Racially motivated joke books. There was the Polish Italian joke book and the Greek joke book and the Irish joke book, and and we laughed and laughed at those jokes, because he didn't know any better, and that was just the way the world was. And we didn't turn into racist bigots from reading these things. We had proper parenting to let us know that what we were laughing at wasn't right, but to understand why these things were funny, and that goes a long way to developing a rational mind, is having proper parenting, which unfortunately is not a common thing anymore. Anyway, I'm getting off on a tangent. I could go off for 3 hours on that tangent, but that's another thing. So anyway, this book was one of those books that I just about flipped out when I saw it. And this came out, and I'm going to look at it real quick before I put it up there. This came out in, when was this? Actually, this came out in 1982. So it didn't have any information from Return of the Jedi in it. But it's called the Jedi Master's Quiz Book from a young author, a kid. I'll bring that up here. His name is Rusty Miller. And there's a little bio on the back for the kid. I'm wondering what he's doing now. I'm hoping he's working at Lucasfilm. But he in the book, he had gone over the foreword, gone over how he came about doing the book, and it's basically questions and answers from the first two movies, and he used other sources for the information, mostly novelization sources, things, and then there's the answers in the back of the book. There, and to this day, I was just leafing through it as I was kind of getting some of these out here. Some things are obvious, but some things you actually had to sit and think and really kind of remember what you had, because you just take so many things for granted. When you're watching the films. I don't know if I can find it in here now. I was looking at it earlier. A question of where was the Millennium Falcon docked in Cloud City? What was the name of the platform? Okay, yeah, here we are. So I'm like, I don't know. Where was Boba Fett's ship docked in Cloud City? I saw these and I said, "Oh my God! How come I don't know?" Where are the questions? So how come I don't know those answers? And so those 252 and 253. So we're going to cheat and go back to the answers. They're indexed numerically, which is cool. 252 and 253 over here. Okay, so Boba Fett was on the east platform, so we heard Lando say that when he was being choked out by Chewie. But landing platform 327, I don't remember if that was mentioned in the film. But, interesting. I had to stop and think. I don't know what it was. So a lot of really cool and surprisingly challenging questions. So it really fills in a lot of... I wish he did a third one. I wish he did a Return of the Jedi one. It would have been great to have that, all three of them. Maybe somebody did something like this. There may have been more books along the way like this, but this one was what I've had ever since. And when this first came out, I read it front to back a million times. So yeah, that's one of my required readings that I would say if anybody should have something, they should have this. It definitely gives you a good insight into a lot of details you may just, again, like I said, take for granted when you're watching the films and not really thinking about it. And when somebody comes to you and says, "What's the name of so-and-so's ship?" And you go, I don't know. But you know it, but you're just kind of taking things, just take for granted. Nothing wrong with that, just the way we are, but it's cool. All right, so that one goes up here. Next one here. This one came out in late 90s, early 2000s. We may not already know this one, but absolutely fantastic book, because it really takes exactly what they're saying, the science of Star Wars, into a real world scenario description, by Jean Cavalos. And a little background for her on the back here. She was, where did she get her degree in astrophysics and mathematics and astronomy at Michigan State University and Cornell University. And she works at NASA's Johnson Space Center. This is as of, the printing of the book. So hopefully she's been doing a lot more cool things since. So this book is another thing, just as you're alluding to, examination of the things we see in the Star Wars films, and are they possibly reality? Do we have things like that now? Are they something that we might be close to getting? Now, I know that some things have changed since this book had come out. This is, they included Phantom Menace in here, so this had to have been 99 when this came out. Yeah, 99 and 2000. So I know that there was a lot of updated technologies that have come out since this book had been written, notably as far as I'd seen, technology for portable plasma blades that would essentially be a lightsaber. And we've done some work with that. And of course, our space technology has really kind of come a long way. I don't know how much further than what we're already saying in here, but the book being 20 years old in the realm of science, I don't want to say outdated, but there might be some, now when you look at it, some framework technology that we now might have more reality of. So, but either way, it's a great read, and it's an awesome outlook on the subject, and just brings, no matter what the level of the technology is currently, it would be a great read to just kind of bring Star Wars into kind of down to earth, if you want to say. And it gives you a good perspective on things, and it's not just things up on film. I mean, a lot of these things are plausible, and why would they be? And what's even better is not just the things about them as far as the subject matter, but the depth of information that she goes into to describe why hyperspace would be what it is, and the differences between hyperspace and light speed and wormholes and blah blah blah. I mean, a lot of stuff we've heard with Star Trek and other things like that have already gone into those things, and that's cool. But we're talking Star Wars here and where it applies in the Star Wars universe. Just a phenomenal book to have on hand and to just kind of absorb into your brain, and it's really fun. All right, so educational stuff. That's pretty much the most of it that I have right now at the moment. Next book here is a book by Stephen Sandsweet, which he has made many. Star Wars from Concept to Screen to Collectibles. Very cool book on let me see if I can get this in here. I can't quite get far enough back, can I? Stupid lights in the way. Very cool book on documenting sketch work and artwork of production of the films, things we've seen a lot and heard a lot since the internet being what it is. But when these books came out, again, as I say, this was all we had. We had to just rely on what somebody showed us and static images and no dial tone to get it. But it's very cool though, because there's something to be said about just the aesthetic of reading and viewing these images on paper rather than on a screen or on a pad, and always having to have some kind of music and stimulus on a video to keep your interest, or you'd fall asleep. So, you absorb the information differently, is what I'm saying. So when you're reading things this way, and gathering the information this way, in my humble opinion, I think it absorbs them on a little deeper level, and you understand it more and just come to appreciate it more, and kind of sticks with you a little bit better, rather than video images flying by you all the time, and jump cuts and weird music and people trying to act idiotic just to have something to say. Anyhow, so it goes through your normal, typical things, as we're seeing the Ralph McQuarrie concept sketches for the production of the films. Then it gets into different sections, like the swag, or the what's the word I'm looking for? The collectibles and everyday things that were out at the time, or at least known. Little anecdotes, overviews of some of the toys, and this was actually kind of cool because I remember a lot of these pictures in toy advertisements, on TV and other magazines and so forth, and it's a cool little kickback to see them, and it's just a very, very cool coffee table kind of book of just leafing through old school Star Wars stuff, and things like that you don't realize when you look at something like this. The pistols and the rifles, very close to accurate scale, made very close to accurate look in the film. So there was problems that came around with kids playing with them outside, or adults using them as toy guns and being mistaken for the real guns, and somebody gets hurt, and all of a sudden they start making the guns out of orange plastic. So it's kind of ridiculous that people had to be idiots with things. It's a toy, for God's sakes, but back in the day, it was a different world, right? And they, like, you couldn't tell when it says Star Wars on it, whatever. But they made them back in a surprisingly very accurate, in a very accurate way for the tooling and the toy making at the time. So again, it goes over a lot more than the toys, and just little, like they say, little factoids about certain things about the toys. So again, very cool. This is more like, again, this is more based on the licensing and the marketing of selling things out of based on the Star Wars universe. I do remember this cereal. It was horrible cereal. Very cool book. It's just very easy, kind of light, page turning kind of stuff. Cool old pictures you didn't really get to see too much of. Old cool paintings. And little things that you may or may not remember. I do remember some of these porcelain arts and crafts things that we would have, making some mugs and some banks, and just cool things. The Star Wars marketing went out everywhere. Some examples of some models that were put together from the existing model kits of the day. Back in the day, they were really cool, but when you look at them now, you can kind of, especially if you've gotten into collecting replicas and seeing the real things, and then seeing how far off these models were back in the day. R2 here in this, I remember these model sets. I had both of them, and 3PO just didn't look good. I didn't like him. I don't know what happened to him, but R2 actually looked pretty good. I had him for a while, but he eventually fell apart. Little things like this that just cool look back on the way things were. All right, so that's that, and again, cool kind of thing. The next book is again a Stephen Sandsweet. I think the next two are. I think Stephen Sandsweet's got something to do with a lot of them, but this is the Action Figure Archive, This book has gotten a lot of wear from me lately. Let me see if I can prop something better here real quick. Hang on one second. A little bit better, not too bad. So again, this is a compendium of up to right before the Phantom Menace release. So all of the action figures, play sets, vehicles, I guess domestic, and some overseas references are in here. Pretty much telling you what it is. It's the action figure archive. The book is absolutely astounding. A little sheet that I had in here to mark things. Edited by Stephen Sandsweet. Little introduction by him on the thing, and a little guide on how the pictures are laid out, what the markings on them mean. Then just a very basic lineup of the figures with the newer Power of the Force 90s figures on the top and original trilogy figures on the bottom of the pages, and their appropriate names and their appropriate things that came with them. So there's a cool just look over of all the figures that were out, which in itself is just super cool. So they start out here after that with the beginning of the Power of the Force figures, which is from the 90s. In this case, Luke was the first one of the first wave, in where the date up here at the top was 7/97, July 97. So real quick here, and one of the reasons I'm bringing this up is it inspired me to do this little video, is in one of my earlier videos when I was putting my room together, I had showed you my toy figure, or my figure line going around the room. So what I didn't do, and I've been meaning to get around to it, and I don't know if you can see it from here, but added a little sticker with a handwritten marker, a release date at the beginning of each section of the line of the wave. So giving me just a little bit better idea of, just visually interesting addition to put a little 795 under Luke, which means that all the figures carrying forward from him were all released 795 until we got to Lando, which he was released December of 95. So all the figures following him were all December 95 until we get to the next one that changes it. That's Yoda of March of 96, and so forth. We get down through, Han and Carbonite was starting the June of 96. Then all of these figures, all the Shadows of the Empire, were all June, and then July of 96. Then our orange figures, the final phase of the orange wave of figures was 1096 and 1196, all the way to Bosk, which started our 97 wave in February of 97. Then we continued on to Han and Endor gear, started 497 to Tarkin of 797, and 797 went all the way down to Leia and her prisoner outfit of 997 for those two. And then 1097 from 9 all the way down to the last one of that original wave, which was only figure released in 1197, was the Ceremonial Luke. Then we had the figures. I don't have all of them, but the ones that I have are all from the first quarter of 98. Biggs, Anakin, Vader reveal, retooled Luke, and Wicket and Leia 2-pack. And then May 3rd of 99, the Phantom Menace figures all just finished the lineup. So that information was all gleaned from this book up here, telling you what wave it was and what date it was. They didn't have a day. I guess they couldn't really do that because stores would have them in different places. Actually, I don't know, I might do that. So this book is basically that. information. They just go through looking like this with little behind the scenes pictures and comparisons of the toy weaponry to the real weaponry, and just really cool little anecdotes and pieces of information along the way. Card variations, some things that are rarer than others. Just really, really cool stuff. Then a lot of behind the scenes photos, things we've probably seen a lot of, but it's still cool to just see them. Then we got into the original figures, and no, we're still in the Power of the Force figures here. Hang on. Yeah, they're getting into a lot of figure packs and dual packs and updates and stuff like that. So this is the end of that Power of the Force stuff. And so all the 12-inch figures at the time were coming out like little special 2-packs and exclusives and who they were from. So here we are. We get to the original figures too. So they have similar format, but they don't have as much information on release date. There wasn't really release dates, other than they just said, hey, in 1977 or in 78, these figures came out, and they worked their way down as they could. And again, just same layout, just showing variations of card backings, rare figures, little game, card game accessories and backdrops. Just really, really cool stuff. I'm just randomly pulling pages open here, not to get too much into it, but as they move along through the movies, the figure cards update, and still no release dates, so I'm not really worried about that. But just a super cool book. It's really informative about all the weird releases and oddball releases and things you may or may not have known about the figures and how they did them and when things came out. It's just really, really super cool. What's back here? I guess these are the post Jedi Power of the Force figures. We're kind of coming up here. Well, this is all regular Jedi, but then we got into in 85. Yeah, that's what they got here. 85. There was a select lineup of figures which were a little more rare because you had to figure that Star Wars, as popular as it was, everybody was thinking that Return of the Jedi at that time, that was it. Done with, over with, nothing going on after that. And there was no kind of internet or marketing machine to carry it on like we have now with things. So the normal interest of a franchise, if you don't keep it up, starts to wear off. So 2 years after Empire Strikes, or after Return of the Jedi comes out, they launched this kind of out of nowhere wave. And I remember it. I remember seeing all of a sudden these figures showing up in the stores and didn't know why they were just showing up. There was no movies coming out. There was no talk of anything else. They just decided to do it. And here's a layout of all the backing cards that had the Power of the Force coins with them and so forth. And a lot of information I didn't know about that stuff. And they get into some of the things I wasn't really interested in. The fan-made figures and prototypes of things that never actually really saw production. That's kind of interesting. And then the same thing as they did in the beginning of the book, just overviews of play sets and toys, which when you look back on it, I do remember I was wanting so many of these things, and other friends had certain things that you wanted to go to their house to play with. I still do, for some reason, would kill to have a nice clean pod or twin pod car set. A good friend of mine had one, and I would literally just go down to his house just to play with his pod cars. I would bring my stuff down, and we would just kind of ooh and all them for hours and play Atari and eat dinner and then go home. So yeah, very cool book. That's pretty much a lot of it. I'm not going to worry about going too much because I'm already killing some time here. So yeah, the Action Figure Archive, very awesome book. I would highly recommend it. Then finally, I'm just going to roll this out because this one's very extensive, but it's very cool. From Star Wars to Indiana Jones, Lucasfilm Archives book, and it is what you think it would be. It is a massive, well, not massive, but there's a lot packed in it. Book about actual visual references and art sketches of the production of these movies. As far as models and artwork and matte paintings, really, really super cool. And a lot of, before this book, nothing really had kind of been this detailed. You didn't really have access to a lot of these pictures, like from the Lucasfilm Archives, like some of the pictures of the Stormtrooper helmets and the actual real screen-used Vader stuff. Just very cool. You never really got to see things like this until books like this came out. And this came out, I think this was a late 90s book as well, but pictures of models that they used in production. As a life-size model and a life-size maquette of Kenobi. What I really found interesting here when I first got this book is this picture up here, this studio scale model of the Landspeeder. When they were filming it, they were using what they called here off-the-shelf toy figures. But if you're looking at a keen eye, the other figure, whatever that Luke was, I can't quite tell, but the hooded figure, pretending to be Ben Kenobi, sorry about the camera here, is actually the $6 million man doll, which you can recognize his little microscopic eyeball there. And I still have mine from back in the day with everything. Pretty cool. Never knew that they used that doll as part of the figures for some of the faraway shots of the speeder as it was flying around. Pretty cool. And that's what I liked about these books, because you find out little cool things like that. There's more Jawa stuff, and you get to really see what a Jawa's eyeball and faceplate looks like. I don't know if the Tantive picture is in here somewhere. Really cool shot of the Falcon. Cool shots of the lightsabers and blasters. The real color of the TIE fighters, they weren't white, they were this light blue color. Yeah, just very cool. There was apparently in the Blockade Runner, maybe it was up further in the book somewhere, one of the little Easter eggs that they put in the cockpit of the Blade Runner, or the Blockade Runner, was an old Playboy poster pin-up, the little miniaturized one that they put in the back that you can, if you can see in the model that it's there, but and you can see, if you know where it's at, you can see that it's there when the ship's flying by, especially in the 4Ks, you can kind of notice things like that. But yeah, just as getting into the same thing for Empire, a lot of storyboard stuff, production sketches, and move him out of the way here. Interesting. So, yeah, pretty cool. I'll just jump through here a little more. Getting into Empire, or I'm sorry, Jedi, and some pictures of things that you never really got a chance to see. The full-scale model of Jabba, and really got to see inside there that you didn't really get to see before. It kind of changes your perspective on it when you see it like that, doesn't it? Yeah, some more things about the sail barge and the way the maquette figures looked on those skiffs, and I just love the look of that. Hair and art and sketches and so forth. And full size again, stuff from the Lucasfilm archives that we, up until these books, never got to see. Now this stuff's all over the internet, so you can just go look at it whenever you want. So go ahead and do that. Then this was really super cool, having the actual static, somewhat detailed images of reveal Vader. That was another level of cool that I really loved about the book. And there. So, as much as I love the Raiders of the Lost Ark books, I'm just not really going to go too far into it, but books and movies. But they go through the same thing. They have a lot of artwork, model examples, and pictures of the 3 films to that point. Still super cool if you have the time to look through it, if you get the book. But since I'm primarily dealing with Star Wars, I wasn't really going to go too much into it. But, there's that. That's pretty cool. So, again, the Star Wars and Indiana Jones, Best of Lucasfilm Archives, one of my other required readings. So that's from things that I have. Some of the other books that I wish I had was from the Industrial Light and Magic book that was out in the mid to late 90s. Real big, thick, heavy book, and I just never got around to getting it because it was always really expensive. And George Lucas's The Creative Impulse. It was a book that came along with the special edition or the definitive collection Laserdisc set, which I never got. I mean, the book can be available. I guess people sell it on eBay. And the Industrial Light and Magic book I'll eventually get. But that's there's a bunch of other books in here that I could tell you that would be great to read. A lot of the cross-section stuff and vehicles and vessels and technology things and the making of the movies and the the visual dictionaries. All absolutely awesome books. Just too much to go through, in a setting like this. So I just wanted to pick a few out that were kind of at the core where I go in my head with Star Wars. And of course, I have a couple non-Star Wars books down here of varying degrees of subject matter. But hopefully I'll get a couple more books in my collection and talk about them at some point. But until then, again, like and subscribe. Always keep it civil. Talk to you later.